Hi, Julie.
Hello.
Okay, I would like you to tell us about your relationship with horses before becoming an equine guided practitioner.
Sure. I started riding horses when I was 2 years old, and was one of those kids who was completely obsessed with horses. So I had all the model horses that I could get my grandparents and my parents to buy me, and really fell absolutely in love with them. And then I got my first horse, which was a quarter horse thoroughbred cross, when I was 6 years old.
Wow.
So I actually can't remember a time that I haven't ridden, and they've always really been part of my life.
Okay, and how did you get involved in and practice equine guided learning instead?
I was in a school, and it was my first year, and I was in a bookstore, and a book called The Tao of Equus flew off the shelf energetically and hit me in the head. And I remember turning and looking at the cover and was absolutely captivated by this book, because I knew internally that horses could heal people. I just didn't know how, but it was a sense that I had back to when I was a young girl.
Okay.
And what I discovered in this book was that horses could indeed heal people, and that there was a way to bring consciousness to humans through working with horses. And it was that book that set me on the path. I had an idea, I needed the direction, and that book provided me the direction.
So what happened next?
What I did is I researched the different practitioners that I wanted to work with, and I actually began working with Ariana Strozzi because she's local here in the Bay Area, and I worked with her and got certified as an equine guided educator. But really I always wanted to work with Linda Kohanov, and I was very intent on becoming an Epona approved instructor. And I did a number of workshops with Linda before I stepped onto the apprenticeship path, and became an approved instructor about 3 years ago. And now I'm continuing my path with her, building out her Power of the Herd series, which is based on her new book that's coming out probably this fall, as well as becoming an advanced approved instructor in the Power of the Herd principles.
Okay.
And so I always continue my training and development with her.
What's so unique about Linda, in your opinion? And what she teaches, obviously.
Yeah, for me, Linda does bring together more of the mythical, mystical aspects, more Jungian-based ideas, using archetype and symbol in her work with horses. I've been Jungian trained, and I was part of a 4-year school where I did an extensive amount of depth work training, trained in symbols and dream analysis. And that really is my preferred path to consciousness. And so when I found somebody who was working in those same worlds with horses, I felt very called to that particular modality.
Okay, and if you had to explain what equine guided learning is to someone who has never heard of it, what would you say?
I would say a couple things. Equine guided learning, or equine facilitated experiential learning as it's called, is like being hooked up to a 1,200-pound living, breathing biofeedback machine. The horses will reflect your inner state regardless of what your outer appearance looks like. And they really guide you towards consciousness. We refer to them as guides. The definition of a guide is to take somebody into uncharted territory. That's really what horses do. And I believe they do it consciously. And they'll lead people into areas of healing, into areas of leadership development, into areas that perhaps someone might have forgotten about themselves, some undiscovered gift that they have. Horses bring us to our most authentic selves. And that's really the power of working with them.
Okay. What kind of people attend those workshops?
Mm-hmm. I have a large range of people who attend workshops with me. I have a large number of women who are looking for ways to go to the next level. Mm-hmm. They understand that they need to get more clear, learn how to deal with boundaries better and more consistently. Mm-hmm. And they also understand that parts of themselves have been forgotten in a very masculine-focused society. So I work with women in that context. I work with leaders and people who coach those leaders, really in the realm of social and emotional intelligence development. Mm-hmm. How does a leader shift from being, you will follow me because I said so, mm-hmm. to one that inspires collaboration, inspires attendance, inspires action. And so we work in the leadership modality as well. We're also just beginning to open up our work to veterans returning from Iraq and Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. We do work with people who are suffering from chemical dependency and addiction, mm-hmm. really all types. The core component, though, of the people that we work with is they're seeking to increase their level of consciousness. Okay. Because they know that if they do that, they'll be better informed and they can actually achieve whatever they desire to achieve in their life in a quicker fashion.
And how are horses able to help people? Why can't they do that?
Well, horses embody a state of presence. And we often, as human beings, get very caught up by what happened to us in the past or what we're hoping to gain in the future. And horses don't really operate that way. Mm-hmm. And Buddhist and a number of teachings will talk about the value and the beauty of staying fully present and mm-hmm. to be fully present with your life. Horses embody that mm-hmm. in a beautiful way. And they create a space and a container for us to learn how to embody that as well. Mm-hmm. Like I said earlier, they're also mirroring what's really authentically going on versus what we imagine is mm-hmm. going on, which helps us become more and more authentic or congruent, mm-hmm. which really transforms our interpersonal relationships. And horses are also very, very powerful teachers in terms of how they interact with nature, mm-hmm. the environment, and the herd. There is the power of the herd, which teaches us how to live with our environment, not at the effect of it. Mm-hmm. Teaches us how to collaborate effectively in community and transition leadership skills as necessary for the better purpose of the herd. And how to, most importantly, not hold on to something. You know, a horse may raise their awareness, look at something that might startle or frighten them, mm-hmm. but if there's no threat, then they go back to grazing. Okay. We as humans tend to, you know, have a response, and then we hold on to the response, and we have a story about the response, and there's a whole big thing about the response versus letting it move through us and going back to grazing.
Okay, let's imagine I'm someone who have heard about equine gather learning and would like to try. What would you do with me? What would you ask me? How would you start?
Well, I often, when I work with individual clients that are curious and they just want to get a sense of what is this. Mm-hmm. I teach them a couple very, very simple tools, primarily the body scan, which is the way that we gain information from our bodies and learn how to leverage emotions as information. It makes us more effective in communication. And then often what I'll have them do is do a couple pieces of what we call reflective work, which mm-hmm. is noticing that there is, you know, working with the electromagnetic field of the heart, as studied by the Heart Math Institute. And then also setting really up a container for the individual to go in with a question or something they're contemplating and see what actually happens in that kind of container. Very often the horses will move something. They'll show the individual where they might be stuck. For example, if an individual is really asking a question in reference to a goal, the horse may let them know this is the energetic or energy you need to bring in relationship to the goal. This is the state that you want to embody in relationship to the goal. This might be the best way to get there. Things like that. So, and typically the sessions are about 90 minutes.
Okay. And but is it an ancient wisdom that horses have? What is it really?
Well, yes,
Where does that come from?
Well, horses and humans have been partnered for 35,000 years, and there is a linkage of wisdom collectively between our species. They've, carried us across lands, fought side by side with us in wars. In the United States, they helped us settle the West. But I believe that horses have not lost connection to nature and the value of nature, and they know their own nature. In our modern day society with technology and transportation and the rate of movement in our culture, we take less and less and less time to connect to nature and connect to our own true nature. That is the ancient wisdom the horses carry, is the value of connecting to the earth, connecting to land, connecting to nature, learning how to take time and breathe. And this is very ancient, and many people, they can't explain what happens, but they get with horses and suddenly that ancient linkage between our species resonates within them and they have an emotional response to it.
And in your opinion, what is the greatest gift that they are bringing us, and what can they teach us today?
I can't really answer that in one sentence. I would say that the greatest gift that they bring us today is the reminder that we're all connected. Watching a herd, you can see how the herd has one heartbeat, one consciousness, and that reminder that we are all connected, not just humans, but the inhabitants, the earthlings of the planet, and that the beauty of being present and not having to fret about the past, worry about the future, but really being present and meeting what is a huge gift that they teach us, and the power of that.
I wonder, how do horsemen react to equine guided learning?
It's an interesting reaction, and I get, of course, I'm in Northern California, which is a little more liberal in the thought process, but most horsemen look at me a little funny. I will be working with clients and someone later will come down and ask me, what were you doing in the round pen? And I usually respond with, I'm teaching emotional fitness skills. They haven't quite brought themselves to the realization, although I imagine that many of them know it intuitively, that the horses have a level of consciousness. That's the piece that I don't think they have a hard time with.
Okay. And in your opinion, what is the biggest mistake that we make when we relate to horses?
Not being authentic.
Can you explain that to us?
Sure. More problems are created when we try to hide what we are feeling in the face of a horse, because the horses can feel it. They know, they don't necessarily They read our energy first, and then they read our expression. And when the two don't match, that's a problem for them. And so the old myth about, never show a horse you're afraid because they'll take advantage of you is completely false. You actually, when you don't show your fear, or you try to courageously move through your fear in the face of a horse, what you're actually doing is creating more fear with them, and they're just seeking safety. And I think that's one of our greatest mistakes, is when we're not authentic, we're not congruent, we're not telling the truth about our internal state. That's when the horses can behave badly sometimes, and then of course it's the horse's fault, not the human's fault for not being authentic.
Sometimes people don't believe in energy fields. Can you explain us what it is that you mean when you say that they can feel and sense our energy? What do they exactly sense?
Well, the heart, for example, has an electromagnetic field. It's measurable, it's readable at a distance of about 10 feet. So that carries information to the horse. But a lot of the work that Candace Pert has done, and a lot of the research in the book Molecules of Emotion, has also shown that emotions carry information and travel like molecules as well. And so that is read and sensed by a horse. The molecules of emotion in our own bodies can actually change very subtle things in our features, in our smell, that horses can pick up. So they're feeling the electromagnetic field of the heart, which you can actually see what's the emotion being broadcast, what's the state. They also are very, very skilled at feeling and perceiving subtle changes in the parasympathetic nervous system, the heart rate, the breathing rate, things like that, which we tend to ignore and we tend to have disconnected long ago from. As prey animals, they have to be able to detect those subtle changes in their environment because they're preyed upon. It could be a predator out there that they need to respond to. And so they're constantly reading multiple levels of what they can see, what they can hear, and what they can feel.
Okay. You said that you work with leadership skills as well. How can horses teach us to become leaders or better leaders of our lives?
Well, the age-old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink, is very true. The leadership skills, and particularly the ones that are needed today, are very different than many of the leadership skills that are being employed today. So many leaders today are in the position of telling their subordinates what to do and the subordinates comply. To lead, on the other hand, is to inspire a set of people or a collective to follow or to take action. Horses can teach us how to do that with very, very little effort. Part of the exercises we do with leadership groups is a piece of herd observation. And it's always striking to these individuals that the leaders of the herd, and there's always two, a lead mare and a stallion, are the most resource efficient. They're the ones that are expending the least energy. And that's startling to many human leaders because in their mind and awareness, they have to do a lot of action to make something happen. By observing the horses, they can see that, wow, the lead gelding or the stallion has a horse move based on a very subtle gesture. And so the horses can teach us the subtle qualities of leadership. More importantly, what state, what level of presence do we need to bring to effectively lead? And what does that look like from an active process? So we do some more active exercises around achieving goals. And it's quite interesting to see a leader who's very effective in the corporate world not able to move my lead gelding, no matter how much they scream, bounce up and down. But when they get focused and they actually connect versus just merely communicate, but they connect with the horse, they achieve their goals much faster. And what they learn is they expend much less resource doing it.
So what are the key points of leadership, in your opinion?
The key points of leadership are, and horses will help us get there immediately, knowing why you're doing something. We often ask for the sake of what. Are we trying to achieve this goal, take this action, lead this group somewhere? Horses always have a why behind their movement. Typically it's a predator, water, something that's compelling them to move. So they teach us that. They teach us the very subtle social and emotional intelligence skills, how to not only leverage our voice, but leverage our thought as well as all of the nonverbal realms. Because most of human communication is nonverbal. In fact, 93% of human communication is nonverbal. So they're able to teach us how do we use the nonverbal skills to effectively lead so that we're not expending a lot of resource. And lastly, they teach us so much about something called consensual leadership, which is I may have the role of leader, but I can pass it back and forth to you for the betterment of the herd, the betterment of the goal, the betterment of the organization. And through a lot of these exercises, we're really going for, over and over again, congruence. Because if we can get congruent or aligned with our vision, and we can start to leverage the three intelligence centers of the body, the mind, the heart, and the gut or the stomach, then we can communicate much more effectively and bring people with us versus mandating that they follow us.
And what brings strength to leadership? I mean, like holding a vision, what is it that really gives you the energy to become a leader?
In my opinion, it's the answer to the question why.
Okay.
If I can understand why I'm doing something, why I'm investing my energy somewhere, why I'm taking a certain action, if I can start there, then I can inspire leadership. And typically my whys are always corded to a very deep passion of mine, like raising consciousness in our species or bringing more awareness and understanding about living with our environment, not against it. If we can ignite that passion, that is a very, very effective and powerful leadership tool.
And if I didn't get it wrong, the horse can feel that you have that energy inside of you.
Yes. Yes, I can partner with my equine teachers if I really know my why. And I'm leveraging all the information from the mind, the heart, and the stomach to guide my actions. The horses are going to respond much quicker to me than if I'm just leading with my mind, or I only work with a mental picture of what I think needs to happen versus having that access to intuition, knowing in my body to make something happen.
And one last question. What is your vision for the future regarding men and horses?
Horses have been revered in many cultures, and they've been beasts of burden in others. They were absolutely, for a very long time, much longer than our Industrial Revolution, which has been a couple hundred years, side by side with us, working with our species in partnership. And the Industrial Revolution moved them from being partner to companion to that which is restricted to sport or, expensive hobbies. My vision is that the horses come back into that status and that category of partner, true partner, but for a much, much different cause, which is to unlock the next level of human potential. That's where my vision holds the horse, is they become the partner and the guide for us to help us see the next level of leadership, the next level of communication, the next level of community and interpersonal connection. They've been doing it for thousands of years. They know how to do it really well. They've in large part been waiting for us to catch up. And they've been waiting in large part for us to know we actually need to catch up.
Okay, what do you think that we will discover if we get to that next level?
Well, we're already discovering it. There was a very interesting article that came out today validating that animals have consciousness.
Oh, okay.
And I think that what we'll discover is that there's ways to heal, there's ways to connect, there's ways to work with past traumas, there's ways to transform pretty much any skill that you want to develop in a way that we haven't even tapped into yet.
Okay.
They're light years ahead of what we can do.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.